I sound okay
Awesome.
volume-wise?
You sound perfect. Totally
Okay.
perfect. I'm just gonna open a document up here. So the energies that you've been feeling today, you were talking about Schumann resonance, that they pinpoint different places on the planet where Schumann resonance is pinpointed. What do you mean? Can you tell me more about that? I've never heard of that before.
Oh, no, it's just that I guess the machinery that they use to measure the Schumann resonance
Right?
is someplace in Russia, and every 2 hours there's a reading, and so I just follow the Schumann resonance page on Twitter, and every 2 hours you'll get just like an image that shows and you can see where the whiteout is, right? And that's when the energy
Right.
is really coming in intense. And so if I feel like a really strong pressure, sometimes if I have time, I'll note the time. And then when the chart comes out, I compare it and see if and usually it does correlate.
Wow. So
Yeah.
does it happen in the same place or does it happen in different places around the planet?
That I don't know. I think it's that I'm not sure of. I'm not that big of an expert of it, but it's interesting. It's fascinating stuff.
Well, Schumann resonance is the frequency at which the Earth's magnetic field pulsates. I think it's 7.83 cycles every second it pulsates. But they are finding that there are particular places on the planet that get a higher intensity of energy than other places at different times. That's what I've read. But I've never
Makes
heard that the
sense.
Russians actually measure it and put the frequency out. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're here to talk a bit about emotions and how channeling can affect emotions in a positive way. Because we've heard, a lot of people have heard, you hear a lot of talk about people channeling entities and getting all crazy and nutso and going off kilter. There was that guy in Canada about 20 years ago that had the devil talking to him and he cut somebody's head off and really insane stuff where there's a vibrational frequency that he tuned into that caused him to do this action. But there are other frequencies that are much higher, more positive emotional energies than that we tend to work with in the work that we're doing. For example, when you found yourself first exposed to channeling, what were your first thoughts and where were you emotionally in your life?
Well, kind of what brought me to all of this, and I made some notes, so if you see me glancing down, I just kind of made bullet points of things I wanted to make sure we talked about. I suffered from generalized anxiety for most of my life and was diagnosed officially about, I don't know, 12 years ago. And really kind of suffered from it. That fight or flight feeling, would literally wake up in the morning feeling it. And after several years, just really decided to take a more healthy approach to dealing with it. And so went and had some EMDR therapy, which is kind of similar to the tapping that I know that we talk about in the course, and really kind of processed a lot of trauma from my past that way. And it probably got me to about 75%, but I just always felt like there was this kind of underlying boil of just low level anxiety that was just always sitting there. And so the universe works in mysterious ways, of course. And a girlfriend of mine sent me a video of someone that she thought would interest me and kind of would marry together her beliefs and mine, because we always were good friends, but there was always kind of this wedge between us. And she introduced me to this YouTuber who is a naturopath and had a Kundalini awakening. And it kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things. And it led me to other videos and articles, just like a lot of people. And I stumbled upon your stuff, your content. And it just really led me to learning about the 101 course. And I'd always had an interest in that. My mom was an astrologist when I was born, and was kind of a new ager, if you will, way back in the day. And so I come by it somewhat naturally, and it was more of it felt like it would be the next step for me to dive into that, learn more about it. And I really just was looking for kind of the next way to dive into the anxiety. And my EMDR therapist actually had talked about mindfulness. And so you start reading about that, and that leads to meditation, and then that leads to other things that meditation can provide besides just, the peace of mind and the able to, really just kind of center yourself. Like you can take it to almost the next level if you want and kind of have a connection, in a deeper way. And so it all kind of just fit together, you know, it just kind of all came together, I guess.
Did you find meditation was a real pivotal point for you?
Oh yeah, huge. Yeah, it's definitely the number one thing in my tool belt. But there's lots of things that, you know, came out of this experience that I continue to work on. But there's no doubt that, you know, pretty much everything from my perspective anyway, can be dealt with by going inward.
Yeah.
Journey, it took
Whether or not you're
me
aware,
to dark.
whether or not you're aware of it is an issue. Whether or not you're aware of it is a different issue. But when you're aware of what's inside you, you can make changes. Um, but the energy here is so intense. Yeah. Hi, Katie. Hi, Gina. Yeah, the energy is really intense. I'm having a hard time putting my words together. And usually I'm really fluid when I have something to say. So I'm kind of astounded.
It really kind of changed how I looked at anxiety. Before, it always felt like an external thing. I knew that it was about how I processed it. I knew it wasn't like the world doing it to me or my ex or, you know,
Yeah.
something like that. It wasn't that way. But I was probably falling somewhat into a bit of the victim mentality in some sense. And so it really was, it changed how I looked at it and introduced me to concepts like detached awareness. Um, you know, really thinking of sometimes, you know, I'll laugh at things like if normally it would be a trigger for me, but as I've worked through this and it's definitely a journey, it's not a destination, and it definitely takes time and patience. But I find myself um, realizing that this in some ways sometimes I just laugh at something like that would normally trigger me. I'd be like, oh, this is just kind of a 3D thing, you know, this is just kind of, you know, I'll joke with my kids, I'll be like, the Matrix is messing with us again, you know, and we all laugh and stuff like that. But it really is about being able to look at things differently, and by changing your perspective it can change everything.
You made a comment about detached awareness because I find that's really important. Detached awareness, just for people who are watching, is the ability to step away from your own thoughts and feelings and become the observer of them rather than being subjected to them. That's been my experience. Would you agree?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes,
That's a
exactly.
that's a big step from being caught in the stuff and being able to actually start making actual changes in your mind and in your body so that you can actually tune into things that are outside of what you think you know.
That's right. And the more time you spend with these techniques and you know, just kind of a very spiritual and kind of focused on kind of the deeper side of life, and kind of out of the superficiality a little bit, the more time you spend with that, at least for me, what I found is the amount of time that I have from when something triggers me to when I'm able to like kind of totally like
Yeah.
categorize it, and if you will,
Yeah.
it becomes
Yeah.
shorter and shorter, because I've always been able to know that those are outside things and they shouldn't influence me. I always knew that. I always knew that I was interpreting them a certain way. But that's almost like a right brain type thing, I guess, where you're more
Yep.
thinking about it right in a logical way. Like I was logically knew, like this should not bother me the way it does. But this allows you to take it to the next step and kind of
Yeah.
move beyond the logical brain.
Yeah, we take you out of that so you actually get a chance to move beyond the emotional state and you actually begin to direct feeling states. You actually begin to generate and create feeling states that support and sustain you from the inside out rather than being the run from the outside in, which is the old world model. You know, we experience things out there and we feel a certain way as we think that the cause of what we feel is out there. Whereas now we're beginning to realize that what we feel in here is actually generating the effect that's out there at any given point in time and space. And the minute we're able to alter and change what we feel, what's going on around us begins to shift instantly to match that. And the more effective we get at that, I know for me, channeling has gotten me to a place of allowing myself to step out of myself and just be the I am self, the part of the watcher of all of it, and not being lost in it. And in that position, it's also let me tap into my guides and my angels, and they're always saying, hey, do this, do that. There's always information and direction for us outside of who we think we are. But all we can get from inside our own minds is what's inside our own minds. You can't get anything new from your mind. You can't get anything new from your past. And channeling certainly led me to a deeper understanding of that realization that there's also relationships beyond this physical world that we can have that will really enhance the quality of our lives and how we feel about ourselves. I certainly feel better feeling the energy and the love and the joy of Jesus than I feel sometimes walking down the street and seeing how people yell and scream and treat each other.
Yeah.
Big difference.
This course also introduced me to a lot of things that I didn't really know much about, like the law of attraction, and then you start kind of going down that rabbit hole. But I say that in a loving way, that it's a good rabbit hole, because then you start getting into quantum physics and just all these fascinating topics that you're like, wow. And then when you talk to people kind of in the 3D world, like at work or whatever, you don't have to use the woo-woo language that kind of sometimes turns off people that aren't really awake to this stuff. You can use more things that resonate with them on kind of the science and that kind of thing, and it opens up their minds. And I would have never been exposed to that if it hadn't been, for this journey.
Yeah. How useful were the practice sessions? Because in the group we did a lot. There's a lot of practicing with card reading and sensing energy and practicing channeling when those senses start to. How did you find they really did they enhance your process? Did it make you expand really fast? How was that for you?
I think it's like anything else. You get out what you put into it. And that's not to say if somebody needs to hang back for a while to feel comfortable or whatever, that's understandable. But to really at least attend the sessions, and then when you feel, it called to you, or you just really want to push yourself, feel the fear, do it anyway kind of thing. It's really, it enhances the experience. I'm not saying you couldn't get something out of it if you didn't participate that way, but I think that you're going to definitely get more out of it if you spend time putting in the effort, and you make friends and you have fun. And what you realize is that anyone can do this. It's just really about tapping into it. And when you start to get confirmations, which for me happens so quickly, it really, it makes it fun, and it helps you, it builds a trust with yourself. And for a lot of people who've kind of gone through like what I call truth trauma, right? When you get red pilled and you kind of learn a lot about what the world's really like. For me, having gone through that, I had kind of gotten to a point where I felt very down about humanity and where our future was, and felt like, how are we ever going to, how's the light ever going to defeat the dark? And going into all of this, not to get too esoteric, but going into all of this really helped me to feel hopeful again. Like, we're not alone, because you go through periods of time in your life, and if you have a religion shoved down your throat, you may be like anti-religion, or if you haven't, or you just believe that, those are your beliefs. And I'm not saying those are right or wrong, but I'm just saying that can really influence whether you staunchly believe in God or you staunchly don't, or whatever. And what this opens you up to is, it doesn't matter whether you want to call it God or Jesus or universe or God or source. It's just that there is something else there. And to know that those, that you've got this team that's available to you, and you get these confirmations that just come, synchronicities just come. And if you're smart, you use a journal and you start noticing them and you write them down. Or if you have a bad memory like me, you need to have those reminders. But that helps me when I start to feel like, gosh, I'm not feeling connected. Maybe I've got something stressful going on. I'll go and I'll look at some of the discoveries that came as a result of this experience, and continue to come. And if you put the work in, I just can't imagine not having at least, it's a very personal experience. Everyone's going to have different results, but I can't imagine going through it and not getting something out of it.
You brought up a really good point about religion there that I think I'd like to touch on, because for me, when I first started, as a child, I was raised in a Catholic environment, and I was taught that I was dark and I was evil and I was a naturally born sinner, and then I began to feel a lot of mistrust towards when it came to a place where I could actually talk to Jesus or Archangel Michael. When I started getting into that realm, it was like, that can't be so, because only God can do that. I can't do that. And as I let go of my fears around who I thought I was because of what religion taught me, I began to actually allow myself to believe I can actually talk to Jesus again. And I do. And I can talk to Archangel Michael, and I do. And they talk back with me, and they offer me support and guidance at all times. When I first heard that statement, Jesus loves me, I used to be terrified of that statement because I always
Yeah.
associated with being a sinner, right? And then when I realized he actually does love me, and Archangel Michael loves me, and Kuan Yin loves me, and I started going, wow, I let my fears, you start to let your fears around these other dimensional beings go, and you open your mind up to be, we open our minds up to being able to actually hear them. That was a big shift for me, being able to not have that tether on, and let myself be free to open and hear and talk. They talk,
Yeah,
I know.
it
Yeah,
changes everything.
yeah, Johan is just saying they talk, I know. Yeah, and more and more people in this day of what they call ascension, everybody is being literally energetically cracked open so that they'll tap into these other dimensional beings, whether they're conscious of it or not. They'll feel shifts in their body, their mind, their emotions, their relationships begin to go through changes, their personality goes through changes. I mean, there's just so many wonderful things that start to happen. And this course has really allowed us to take a lot of what we've learned over the last 40 years and crystallize it down into some simple processes that let people let go and connect and expand self beyond what they think they know, right? And that's the key is you can't know anything new from what you already know. You can only know something new from what you don't know. And in order to get what you don't know, you have to let go of what you do know to know what you don't know because it's always available to you. Like what you don't know is
That
always around you. Yeah,
that was
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
pivotal. That was pivotal for me because to realize that like the stories and the things that I concoct in my head that lead to my anxiety were completely self-defeating, but self-created, of course. And realizing that A, I didn't need to do that. B, there was absolutely zero value in it, and if anything, it's detrimental.
Yeah.
And that C, this was that whole kind of learning about new things that I didn't really know much about, but was curious category, the whole quantum physics and all that stuff. Then I started to realize that those thoughts could be creating some of that drama and
Yes,
trauma.
yes,
And so
yeah.
that was eye-opening as well. So
And
that
now
was
the
a big, that was
quantum
beautiful.
now the quantum world of physics is now revealing that thought actually does organize microparticles of energy, and the more thought you put towards something, the more microparticles are organized to produce an actual experience. Um, that's fascinating. How has your relationship dynamics changed? How did the relationships in your life begin to change as you started to open up the channeling, especially through the arc of the course? I know you did the 101, and did you do
Right.
you went to 102 as well, right?
Yeah.
How was that arc for you in terms of your relationships? What was the impact and changes you noticed?
Well, some of the things that I found myself doing was, setting my intention for the day, learning about that, and really just not coming at situations from a standpoint of, I want this relationship to improve, and instead made it, which just feeds into like the lack mentality. Instead, I would kind of like high vibe it in a sense. I tell my kids to, to try to word things in the affirmative and saying, I have a peaceful relationship with so and so, and putting it out there, and then really focusing on pulling, the light in and sending it out, and just really trying to, anytime I'm going to have any sort of interaction with somebody that I might have had a contentious relationship in the past, um, realizing that reality is created and realizing that my head was just perpetuating it made a huge difference because I
Wow.
was really able to positively impact that relationship. And it's a work in progress, and it's going to be a situation in my life for, almost another decade based on other factors. So I have to make it work. And it's really been remarkable. People that I work with, just really try, because I like to joke that I'm really not a light worker. I'm a light warrior. I resonate more with that. I like to share information with people. I love to help others. And what all of this has taught me is the value of planting seeds, not trees, as my kids tease me. And just really learning how to, that, the whole universal law, we're all one, the polarity. It's exciting to be happy when you see that, the light is prevailing, especially with all of the awakening. It's amazing. We're living in an amazing time in history, in my opinion. But it's also important to remember to not let that polarize us, right? And so one of the things I do with my work relationships is when I have something where maybe I'm not, communicating well with someone or we're butting heads a little bit, is I just really try to visualize the relationship being better. I put the intention out there. And then I will ask for guidance, like, what can I do to make this better? And one of the things I discovered during the course is that I have some claircognizance. And so the answers just come so quickly now, and I'll get something and I'll be like, really, that's kind of unconventional. But I'm going to, the course, one of the things I learned is to trust myself. And so, and I'll tell you, the universe is not letting me down, even sticking my neck out there a little bit, or maybe apologizing for something that, honestly, maybe might not have been something that really I caused, but I'm the one that can take the high road and kind of fix it.
Yeah.
And
We
really
also
looking at ways to do that and help the person on the receiving end, feel whole and feel good about it. Even if they don't react the way I would like them to, then I can feel good about it. And if nothing else, I've impacted the energy that I bring to the relationship.
We also talk about a concept that emotion is energy in motion, that you can actually take specific emotional states and create specific emotional states and generate a different outcome in your experience with that principle that emotion is energy, your personal energy that you're given by source to create experience. And that your capacity to change those emotions with thoughts and with images and ideas can impact, if your child's feeling really sad, you can actually move into a state of joy around them and alter their state. Have you used that principle much in your day-to-day life?
Absolutely. And I've taught my kids how to use it too. And they've seen it. The amount of confirmations that you get, I mean, just something as silly as, putting it out there to make a change for how the Pandora station is playing music because it was not going well. That something minor to something major, like being able to positively impact a relationship, and then everything in between. I've had situations where I've been, kind of in a hurry and stressed out, and then I remember some of the things that I remember you and some of the other instructors had talked about with everything happens in perfect timing. Everything is exactly how it's supposed to be. And so I just put it out to the universe because I like to be on time. I do. That's just who I am. And so, I start to pull into the gas station and there's just a bazillion cars, Costco, right? And I'm like, put it out there. No, as I see it kind of off in the distance as I'm driving in, I'm like, no, I need to, this needs to be quick so I can get where I'm going. And sure enough, I pull in and then there's a spot. It just zooms right in. Just things like that. And just setting that intention, the universe is honoring the fact that I honor other people by being timely and assist me with that and allowed me, because I think honestly, because I chose, when I saw the amount of cars, not to stress. For like a split second I did, but again, that window of time is shortened. And so I'm like, and I put it out there, and then I turn around the corner and there's a place to pull in to get gas, and I was 5 minutes early getting home. So, it's just amazing.
It really proves that creation does come from the inside out. That's really awesome. How have your children been receptive to what you've learned from this? Like, that's a really good point. Like, were your children really receptive and open to learning these things that you had learned and passed on to them?
My youngest especially, she's going to be 12, and she's in middle school, so there's a lot of things that go along with that time in your life, right? So I really helped her to try to see how to use it at school with peers and with teachers to some degree, and even with her dad. And I think it's really helped her. She has definitely seen things, and she's got some claircognizance too, especially with animals. It's pretty crazy, but she has definitely seen results from it. But she also made a good observation. She's like, Mom, even if it doesn't turn out exactly as I like, I feel better. And I said, that's huge. That's huge. Especially at that age, to be able to.
How does that make you feel as a parent? How does it make you feel as a parent?
Yeah. I mean, I'm super proud and super happy. And yeah, it's cool. We have a lot of fun together. Like when I was taking the class and I was really into, we started doing the yes and no questions. And then we would advance it beyond yes and no to like, okay, do you have cats or dogs? Okay, how many? And the claircognizance thing, well, I noticed that she has it too. And so I think I'd come off of like an evening session with Jason or with you or with someone, and I was just really feeling the buzzing and the energy from working together. And so she and I sat down and we just started asking each other questions.
Yeah.
And she said, ask me a question. I said, okay, what's the first initial of the first name of my best friend from grade school? Now, I don't really talk about this person much around my kids. It's been many, many years. And without hesitating, she said it. She said, B. I go, I got chills. I'm like, oh my gosh. And that wasn't the first time that night. You know, she's like, tell me
Wow.
a color I'm thinking of. And we just kind of kept going and going. And so that's really cool because I think it opens them up. You know, you hear about
Yes.
these programs where they're teaching kids meditation and instead of sending them to detention. And that's what we need in the world. So I love that I've been able to give that to her. And if I hadn't had this whole experience, you know, I think everything would have come in time. I think this is part of my destiny, obviously. But
Yes.
it's just beautiful that it's coming now. It's a great time. It's perfect timing.
Well, I love that. Yeah, that whole yes and no thing. I remember the very first time my wife Norma engaged that process, and she began to realize her body and every part of her body could tell her the truth of what it was needing. And then she realized it could apply to anything in life. And your body will actually tell you. For me, it's always been in the heart center where I ask a question. The answer is immediate. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And yet there's also times you have to watch, for me anyway, times where your mind tries to step in the way and thinks it knows what you don't know, and then it tries to tell you, and you learn to distinguish even those subtle things where your mind is trying to interfere with what you truly know. And wow, the fact that you could play that game with your daughter for that length of time and she can get it and nail it. And then who else will she share that with? I bet she's taking that into school. Who knows?
Yeah, we've done some cool things together where we've you know, done some kind of fun just reading back and forth with like friends and their pets, and she has a real connection with animals. So that's a lot of fun to see and watch that blossom. And I just think it sets her up for a better place, you know,
Yes.
going
Yes.
forward. So
Yes. Yes. What are the biggest areas of impact in your life? Like what areas of your life have been most impacted from the what you've learned?
let's see, because like I said, I kind of jotted down
Yep.
ideas here. Yeah, you know, I never had really thought of what we were doing as, for me anyway. I really wasn't focused on channeling so much like, oh, I want to connect with this or with that, or, you know, my mom or whatever. I just really wanted to use it as a tool to help myself and to help my relationships, and in turn that would help others, and you know, so on and so forth, send out those good vibes and really try to turn my life into a more positive, to come from a more positive place.
Wow.
um, I think that, but interestingly, one of the first times that I went live in the course, I think, was with you. And, you know, we were just kind of learning how to sense energy. And you asked me, you know, I was sensing a female, and I was kind of telling you, and you said, who is it? And like, I asked, and like, it just came to me instantly, and I blurted it out. And I'd never even heard of the name before, honestly, you know, Girl Scouts Honor. And you're like, oh yeah, Callie. And I'm like, that's crazy. And then I went and looked her up, and I'm like, this is just, so you get those kind of experiences,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you see the benefits in your life from the standpoint of, you know, peace of mind, interpersonal relationships, emotional intelligence. It just kind of goes on and on. So,
Yeah.
and you really can find guidance on pretty much anything. Like I would go inward if I had a trigger that had upset me, and I really wanted to figure out what was going on. And sometimes things, memories and images and things came to me that I literally have not thought of in like 40 years.
Yeah.
You know, I was just like, where did that come from? But clearly there was something attached to it. And sometimes it wasn't always obvious. I had to dig a little deeper or bake on it a little bit. But
Yeah.
it really does, it kind of opens you up to other things. And then things start coming into your life as you raise your vibration.
Yes.
So one of the things that I do for a living is I help build courses for a nonprofit university in the business school. And I like my job. It's fine. It's not overly stimulating, but I don't hate it. And I get a lot of perks, so I can't complain. But I don't see myself doing it forever. But I'm not miserable, but I definitely would like to be more challenged.
Yeah.
And sure enough, one of the courses that they were redoing our business core, and one of the courses they added was emotional and cultural intelligence. Well, I have to tell you, the
Wow.
time that we spent with our subject matter experts developing this content was incredibly high vibrational. Like the SMEs involved, subject matter experts, the internal people that are experts in this as well. And we just
Yeah.
got together. I'm getting chills talking about it. And we talked about mindfulness. We talked about, and this isn't a business setting. We're talking about putting this in undergraduate business core. That's so exciting, you know, and those kind of experiences, like I've been thinking about the job and thinking about where I'm going with it and what it means. And I'd ask the universe, you know, help me out here. You know, should I start looking internally? You know, I just really wasn't sure. I wasn't in a place where I felt like I had to do something, like, oh, I'm miserable. But I just wanted to know. And it just dropped this in my lap, this course.
Yeah.
It was
There's
just
a lot of that.
cool.
Yeah, I'm noticing that too in places where, you know, people are usually very analytical and left brain. There is a new energy, this ascension energy has been coming into the planet now for a number of years, but people are waking up to this. It's spilling over to conventional business models now, and where they're talking about intuition and knowing more and going in and meditating and finding answers. Like, this is becoming more pervasive in the old world paradigm, is literally being remade as we speak. I really love that aspect, and we get to, in the work we do we get to bring that forward by training the people to go out and share this as you're doing already. But,
And people that I work with that I didn't even know were kind of into all of this stuff, you just kind of start dropping little things and, you know, little comments in meetings or in the chat, just innocuous stuff. And then all of a sudden you realize that, oh, this person is really into, you know, tantric yoga, or just what, you know, there's all these different things that people, and then they start sharing their stories. The girlfriend of mine who sent me that video that initially got me into all of this, we've since become pretty close, and she was sharing with me stories about, you know, meeting people at conferences and having a gentleman come up to her and telling her that she was his incarnated wife, and you know, talking about, and she starts digging into the history of her family and his family, because she got the name, and sure enough, like, she named her, the nicknames she had for her kids were the same that his children were named. It's just, again, goosebumps. And so you bring these people into your life and you start having these experiences, and it just kind of blossoms.
Yes, yes, it's exactly what happens. And once you start incorporating this information and knowledge into your practical experience and put it into use, that, it starts to just roll out in your life. Literally, it starts to flow from you to the world around you. It's really exciting. It's interesting. I had somebody ask me a question through email today about the course, and one of the things they had is what percentage of the people in the class actually get to a place where they channel? And my answer to him was that really depends on the amount of effort, but a large percentage of people get to some degree of channeling, some degree of heightened awareness, of expanded consciousness, where they begin to have more resources available to be more effective in their life and to help others.
Gosh, I would think like 99.9% of the people are going to get some sort of benefit out of it. I mean, if you don't get a benefit out of it, you know, God bless you. And, you know, I'd like to talk to you, because maybe we can, you know, talk about, you know, look for the silver lining type of thing. But honestly, as far as the channeling, you know, as far as setting out intentionally, like, I want to channel, you know, Mother Mary or whatever, you know, I think that's something that for some people probably comes very easily, and others have to practice. It's all about intent. That was never my intent. But I can tell you that even if you're not intentionally going after trying to connect with a particular person or ascended master or whatever, there's no denying that you're gonna feel, you're gonna either get sensations, the energy. You know, I can't remember really anyone from our course that didn't get some sort of, some people, you know, did get to where they felt like they needed help to kind of move forward. And I think that's where the videos that you guys do every couple of days to kind of talk about things really help. I know I relied on those to kind of keep bringing myself back to center, because those triggers, you know, when you start doing the work, the triggers come fast and furious. But like, again, the time gets shorter and shorter and shorter as you do the work and learn. But, you know, I would really think that, you know, the vast majority of people are going to be able to sense energy. They're going to have information come to them in some form. And they're definitely going to get the peace that comes with meditation. And you know, I've read statistics, the number of people in our world that, you know, we live in a fear-based society, and to be able to find ways to transcend that is just humongous.
Yes, it's amazing. I'm speechless, because, and it's hard to make me speechless, because you're basically saying everything that anybody could say about the course that really needs to be said. Like, what would you say I'm going to read from a question I wrote. And again, this is the first time I've written questions down. So for me, it's new. Usually I just channel them through. But
No, it's good. It's
they
good.
said this was not about a me show tonight. This is about a we show tonight. And so I've been back. But saying, as a medium in the course, what do you hope to give to other people in the course?
Yeah, for me, this whole journey has always felt like by healing myself, I was going to be able to help others. I've always felt like, I don't know if it's teaching or healing or what, but I know that we talk about New Earth and the future and all of that, and I definitely see my role as being that. So this really, everything happens at the perfect timing, and everything happens for a reason. And when you reached out to me, it was honestly ideal, an ideal time, because I really was looking for kind of what was the next step. So I'm really excited to be involved and to be able to help people. But as I mentioned, it's a very personal journey. So you're going to get different things out of it, but you're going to learn how to trust yourself if that's something you've ever struggled with. You're also going to, it's important to remember not to compare yourself to others, but yet when you're around other people and you see what they're accomplishing and you hear their experiences and you open yourself up, inevitably you're going to have your own experiences. So I really think it's about, I just think that there's so much that can be gotten from this, and the amount of the support. And like I said, it's fun. And it's one thing that I really want to emphasize is it's a really safe place. Like, it's a place that you can air your ugliness if you need to, in the context of, asking questions on the videos, where we can ask, like, how do I deal with this? I have this fear, how do I get past it? And we can be kind of raw if you want to be. You don't have to be, but you can if you want, and it's a safe place. And that's really important when you're doing this kind of work, I think.
Yes, yes, it is. I found that too. The participation is really crucial. I know we do. That's one of the reasons why we do so many lives, is because it's important for people to get in real time answers to real time questions. But we also have the replays available. All of the material that happens on the course gets saved on the course wall and in the course file, so people can re-access stuff. If you won't miss anything, you literally have everything at your fingertips for the entire duration of the course. So don't think you'll ever miss anything. I mean, I went to replays 2, 3, 4 times sometimes just to make certain
Oh,
that
yeah.
I'd gotten everything out of them. You did the same thing too, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's fun if you can attend when they're live. There's no doubt about that. There's an energy involved in that, and that's cool. And being able to ask questions live, but that's not always possible. And that's the beauty of you can go back. So people who are concerned about work during the day or whatever, you'll find that, to me, it would be something at the end of a hectic day that I would look forward to. Or I may work an extra hour at the end of the day so I could, sneak away for an hour in the middle of the day and attend a live, things like that. So I think there's a way to make it work. And it's all about intent and what you put into it and what you want to get out of it. I would say the best thing to do is to jump in at the beginning if you can. Even if you're not by jump in, it doesn't mean you're comfortable going live right away. But jump in, read the materials, participate, watch the lives and all of that, ask questions and whatever, because that will kind of help you. I think sometimes people hang back and then they feel like, oh, it's too weird now. It's the third week. If I go in now, no, if that's what you need to do, that's what you need to do, and that's what you're supposed to do for this journey. But if you can, try to at least be following along from the beginning if possible, because it's going to be something that you're going to want to probably, especially if you're out and you're working a job in the 3D world and you're dealing with the normal stressors that we have in life. It really can be the place that can help you center yourself at the end of the day and do the exercises and hear the stories. And then you'll notice things start happening to you. And then it's exciting because you can share it with people that aren't going to think you're weird.
Yes, that's nice to have that environment. That's one of the things everybody commented on, is the fact that it was a safe, nurturing environment where everybody had common focus, common ground, common support system in place. And it didn't matter where you were on the spectrum, somebody was always there to offer you support. And that was, for me, one of the greatest joys of the course, is the level of support that was provided for everybody, by everybody, through the whole process.
And people all over the world, so the time zone wasn't as big of an issue either.
Yeah, and we've adjusted for that too. We one of the concerns that was brought up in the last the 102 extension was that some of the people from Australia and some of the people from Europe weren't able to get the lives. And what we're doing this time, we'll be staggering some of the lives to different times. So everybody will get a chance to participate in them. Everyone will have a chance to grasp what they need to grasp. And the reality is divine order always prevails.
Yeah.
It always prevails. So you're going to get exactly what you need in the way you need it for your growth, where you are at your point of time and space. That's not something we have to think about. It's something that just naturally and organically happens. But it's going to be a
What
lot
you
of fun.
said just made me really think of something that's really, really been key for me through all this, is it's taught me to not beat up myself about things, to not beat myself up, because of what you said about everything happens in divine order. So if I'm beating myself up because, oh, I'm doing this and I shouldn't, it's not very high vibrational, I need to work on it, and I'm like just like whipping myself over it, as opposed to just going, this is what's happening right now. This is where I'm at right now. And if I'm not comfortable with it, and if it doesn't feel right, but I'm still doing it, then it's like, okay, then why? And you dig into it and you look at that, as opposed to, self-flagellation over it, because that doesn't help anyone. So when you mention that about everything's perfect, that has helped me almost more than anything, because when poop hits the fan, in life and things happen, I can kind of go back and just go, this is what's supposed to happen. And then you pull out all the tools that you have, the detached awareness, the how to process it, the meditation, just all the different things that we learn through all of this, and you're able to apply it, and it's empowering. It really is. You take your power back.
Yes. And I've watched you do that. I've watched you go on this arc from the very first time I met you, and you are so on point. You are so present. You've really integrated your learning experience. You've really, and I've watched how you've given to other people in the course and the program, and it's been remarkable. And like I said, when we asked our team, who do we want to bring in, you were like the second name that came up out of everybody. They
That
just
makes me
listed
feel
you
good.
guys
Thank
off really
you.
fast.
I'm looking forward to it. It's exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah, me too. We're starting to get questions now, and
Okay.
and I know for a while Michael was standing by. He's not right now, but and JC was in my heart, but they're just saying, just take these questions and they'll come through as they come through.
Okay.
I'm going to give this question to you. It's from Lori Lemieux, and she's saying, when I close my eyes for meditation, I've been feeling something like internal goosebumps all inside my body. Is that the beginning of channeling, or maybe my higher self?
I think so. I mean, I think we all experience it differently. I start to feel like this little tingle right here near the third eye, kind of pins and needles sometimes on my face, pressure. I think everyone experiences it differently. And what I'm getting is, when you have that feeling, to put yourself into that state where you're doing the deep breathing and the relaxing, some of the techniques that you're going to teach in the class about, the different kinds of breathing. I think if you do that, you're going to find it explode. You're going to find it blossom.
Yeah. And the answer that came to me, Lori, and this is the other good thing about the course, is you get multiple answers for your question that are all very beneficial. And what came to me is, yes, this is the beginning of channeling for you. It is also a connection to your higher self that you're ready to access now. Part of the reason that you're here at this point of time and space is because those frequencies and vibrations are being transmitted to you as we speak. And you can feel this even now. Allow that. For your higher self is not who you think you are. So it seems like it's different than who you actually are. But the truth is, you are connecting with your true self, not the old paradigm self of who you were made to think you're supposed to be. That was what came to me.
Nice.
Yeah. Vicky is asking, what message do I need to know most now for my greatest good?
What I saw was a shield. There's some energy, or there's something coming towards you, and this shield is going to help you to deflect kind of the pieces that aren't going to serve you. But it's made of glass. So the parts of it that are meant to heal you, there's good and bad that are coming, if you will, not bad, but I mean, the kind of light and the dark. There's pro and the con. And as that comes in, you're going to, just like anything, you're gonna pick the pieces out that resonate, that work for you, that will benefit you, that will bring you more into love. And the pieces that don't are just going to ping right off.
Yeah. And what I got, Vicky, is that they're saying you need to step back and not be as defensive as you have been. Be mindful, but do not push against that which is coming towards you. Do not fight against it. Step back from it a bit. Be relaxed. Allow. Don't get caught up in it. And peek out from behind that shield. They're saying, peek out from behind that and look out and see what's there. It might not be as scary as you think it is. It might actually be something much needed at this point in your life.
I saw it as kind of a filter. Like I said, it was made of glass. I saw it kind of as a filter that the parts, the things that come at her that are of benefit will go through, and she can see through it. But it's there to also protect her and make her feel like she can kind of let loose of the feeling of being nervous about the vulnerability that might feel like it's there.
I love that. I love that metaphor. That's beautiful. And I can feel the truth in that. I can feel the yes in that. Right. And that's the other thing you begin to realize there's sometimes more than one answer, one more. There's a much broader way to look at things than just a single point. Wow. Let's see if there's any more questions here. Scrolling up here. Oh, we got a comment from Gina. I haven't heard from Gina in a while. Said, just wanted to make sure you both know how much your course and Jill, your energy spills over. Always felt so grateful for both of you. I've learned so much just knowing you. I haven't been around much, but can see such growth in you, feeling you.
Oh, thank you. I remember
so
Gina.
True,
I think we went live once together. That was fun. She did really beautiful artwork, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Remember that.
Okay. Oh, Katie's asking, is there anything for me from Spirit, please?
It's weird. I get images of things. Like I got the shield before, and what came to mind, oddly enough, was like a fork. But it was the image that came with it, or the thoughts that came with it were, it's time to start using that to pick up things out of your life. Off, there's a plate in front of you, and that's your life, and use that fork to pick up the things that serve you and your greater good. And I guess, in comparison, what you don't pick up are things that are okay to let go.
Yeah. Well, that's great, because I got a similar message, except there's something behind you that you have to let go of. There's something right behind you, in the middle behind you, almost like it's in the middle of your back, that you need to let go of, move away from. And they're saying it's definitely connected to your past, and you just have to let that go emotionally. It's just a memory now. Let it go. That's what they're giving to me. Yeah, Gina was just saying she just painted Buddha, and he came and sat with me a few days. I'll have to share it. Yeah, that'd be really nice.
Please do.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I wish I had those abilities. I wish I could draw stick figures,
Yeah, but you've got a very imaginative faculty. You can easily channel information from an undifferentiated state into words. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I guess you just trust it, and then if it doesn't resonate with the person at the time, a lot of times you'll hear people will say, it didn't make sense then, but like a week later this happened and it made total sense. So sometimes that can happen, and sometimes you're just not, it just doesn't come to you, and that's part of the learning process. But again, that's where those confirmations come in. I mean, I had one of the first times I was working with someone, and we weren't using the cards so much anymore. We were doing yes or no questions, and then we kind of advanced beyond that. I was doing this with one of my classmates, and someone asked, do I have cats or dogs? And if so, how many? And instantly the answer came, and it was cats 4. And it was just like that. It wasn't she has 4 cats. It was cats and 4, because that's how I asked the question. And so I just blurted it out because it came to me and it was accurate. And they weren't, I would say, I got to the end where I was about, I would say 65 to 75% of the time. I was, and that's amazing, and that's fun. And I suppose if I really spent the time on it, it could develop into something bigger. But as I mentioned, my focus has been kind of different.
Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true. It's funny, I'm seeing you your icon on my screen as if you're on another device. It's really fascinating.
Really?
Yeah. Not just just confirmation for something I was thinking about earlier. Um, so Lori says, "Oh my God, I felt pain in the middle of my back when I tuned into a message for Katie." That's great, Lori, that you can do that already. That's really who is giving you that message? Where is it originating from? In the course, you get a chance to ask people that questions and share that information with people. I feel it. Is it male or female? Is it an image you're seeing? You know, what is it that's actually there that you're perceiving, and then being able to translate that into the message that is part of. John's making a comment here saying, "I see spirits everyday faces in sky and clouds." Well, I love that. I see that a lot as well, and I've actually had one day. Norm and I were sitting on a beach at 2 o'clock in the morning, and here in Toronto, and we were looking up at these clouds floating by, and I saw this face in the cloud, and Norma was looking up at it, and I said, "Look at the face in the cloud," and she goes, "What face?" And I said, "That face up there." And as soon as she looked up with me, this face in the clouds literally turned. It was like turned and looked at us.
Wow.
It looked straight at us. And at first we were like, whoa. And then we started laughing, right? Realizing. But yeah, as you start to gain more and more experience with life, you start to see they're communicating with us all from all points of time and space, even in the movement of a tree's branches. You can hear them whispering to you. The fairies love to do that. They love to move little branches around, or they'll stand and they'll move a single leaf on a tree in front of you and going, "Hi." You know, there's no wind or nothing, and you see this leaf waving in front of me, and I'm going, "Wow, it's a fairy there," right? And you start to actually see these beings on so many different dimensions. It's fascinating. Yeah,
you know, everything is just connected. Everything is so connected. We have a park by our house that has ducks. We go over there sometimes, and they come up to us because they know we bring frozen vegetables to feed them because those are duck safe. And but I noticed the other day I took my phone with me and my earphones, and I was going to sit in the park on the ground up against a tree and meditate. Well, the ducks see me and they come, and I brought the peas, and so I was feeding them, and then the peas were gone, and they were kind of milling about, and I started meditating. And when I opened my eyes, because there were probably about, I don't know, half a dozen maybe, they were all sleeping, like next to me. Like I could reach out and touch them. They were like all around me.
Yeah. Wow.
I was dumbfounded. I was like, I mean, I know they're used to people, but it was like they fell asleep. I mean, I understand they're used to us, but they're still wild animals. It blew my mind. I thought they must have, and my cats go nuts whenever I've done a session with you or anything, and I've got that buzz going around my body. All my cats go insane. They just want to rub themselves all over me.
Yeah, it's amazing because as you start raising your vibration up intentionally, deliberately, and you're with a group of people that are doing the exact same thing to different degrees, you walk away from every encounter with more energy, more consciousness, more awareness, and understanding. That's been one of the reasons I love teaching this too. Is because of that. I get to actually let them flow through me unencumbered, and as you start allowing that, like you come out of there, like I've had my body drenched in sweat. They'll come through so fast, and we get into things like I know we get into things like making sure you stay properly hydrated. Really important. Learning how to ground. It's important to know how to ground. What is ground? We get into that. Also, how to eat high vibrational foods. How do you raise your vibration? What's in that? And it's important to understand there's an actual process, that for raising your vibration up so you can see and hear more at a higher frequency rather than at a lower frequency when you're not. Yeah, John, barefoot. John saying barefoot is really good. Yeah, I like the sun gazing people who walk on the ground for 45 minutes a day barefoot to retrain their bodies to photosynthesis, so they don't need food. They only get sunlight and water and grounding, and it's the most amazing thing.
There's a wonderful video on YouTube that's only about, I think, 15 or 20 minutes long, and it's called The Science of Grounding. And I've sent that to a couple of people that aren't into this because they've got physicians on there. Again, the whole science thing, the people who
Yeah.
add validity to things for people who aren't quite, open to this. And it's a wonderful video. I think it's literally called The Art of Grounding, and it really presents it. This woman is a physician, and she was one of the examples, and she was talking about how her baby would just scream and scream and scream, like colic, right? That's what they were saying. I think she was a pediatrician, actually. And she noticed as she put the baby on her, up against skin to skin, and she went out and she walked on the ground, baby stopped crying. The minute she walked into the house, baby started crying again. And so she started digging into it, and I'm getting chills again. It's a great video. I would recommend it to anybody who wants to either learn more about it or they want to share it to people who, like I said, may not be open to it, but it presents it in kind of a scientific way that I don't know. I've sent it to some people who weren't open to it, and they were like, I never knew anything about this. I'm like, yeah, me either.
Oh, well, we're going to wrap it up now. Just one last thought. What would you say to somebody who's just thinking about taking the mediumship course?
Well, I think you're going to get a lot out of it. There's going to be something that's going to resonate with you. Like I said before, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. But, reducing anxiety, helping with self-esteem, decision-making, trusting yourself, enhancing relationships. Those are the things that I got out of it. I know a lot of people are using it, to really make changes in their lives in terms of careers or whatever, because of their connection to spirit and their team and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that's wonderful. And that's probably like a next step for me, quite frankly, since I'm feeling better. But it's just, you're going to find that there's really a sovereignty in this, and really finding that it really puts the ball back in your court, and that's so empowering, especially if you feel like you've been suffering, with issues with emotional health or what have you. So it just really makes a huge difference.
I'm glad that word Michael's here, and he's saying sovereignty. Sovereignty is the word. For sovereignty is not a finite individual thing. Sovereignty is your awareness of the interconnectedness that love pervades through all points of time and space. He's saying that's really important. So your sovereignty is what you need to recover. You already have it, but you need to remember that you already have it. He's saying we can end on that note, that your sovereignty is what you will recover more than anything else, and you will do it with people that are in harmony with you and with life in general.
Mm-hmm. And have fun.
And have fun. And much love to everybody. And thanks for joining us tonight. Jill, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time.
Of course. I'm looking forward to working with everybody, and we'll see you in the course.
Okay, darling. Have a great night.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.